The twin suns hung heavy in the sky, like watchful gods, unblinking and merciless. Heat shimmered across the endless desert, rippling the air like a veil. Jagged red cliffs loomed on the horizon, casting long shadows that looked like claws scraping across the sand. And at the center of it all stood her. Azcali, spear maiden of the Drakari, first blade of Clan Uranak, was a storm forged in flesh. Blue-skinned and silver-eyed, she stood poised like a coiled serpent, long hair braided for war, a spear of radiant gold crackling in her hand. The warrior circle had been drawn in the sand, and around it stood the elders, the challengers, and the watching crowd, silent, waiting. Across the circle, a man walked. Human. He was tall for his kind, lean muscle wrapped in what passed for armor. More patchwork survival gear than ceremonial. Dust clung to him like a second skin. He moved with the kind of confidence born not from arrogance, but necessity. He looked up at Azcali as if the suns weren't trying to burn holes through his skull. And then he smiled. "Nice day for a misunderstanding," he said, his voice casual, dry. Azcali narrowed her eyes. She didn't know what he had just said. The translator embedded in her collar stumbled on tone and sarcasm, but she knew that grin. Insolent. Human. She didn't like it. She pointed the spear directly at his chest. "You have trespassed on sacred ground, off-worlder. You stand where warriors prove their blood." The translator clicked and hissed in his ear, but the message got through. "I was just passing through," he replied. "Didn't see any no trespassing signs, or fences, or people, until the war party showed up. This is not your desert. Didn't know deserts could be owned." The murmurs began. The circle spectators stirred like a windless sea catching its first gust. The elders exchanged glances. Azcali's grip tightened. This was not a duel anymore. Not really. It was becoming a ritual. She felt the weight of tradition pressing down on her shoulders like armor. If she cast the spear in the warrior's challenge, and he did not dodge or fall, but caught it, then by the ancient law, the bond was sealed. He would be hers. Hers to protect. Hers to train. Hers to bind. But he was human. And still, her pride whispered, "He will fall. He must fall." So she stepped forward. She planted one foot in the circle, and she hurled the spear. The air screamed. The glowing weapon sliced across the scorching space between them like a comet loosed from heaven. And the man caught it. Not stumbled into it. Not swatted it aside. He caught it, both hands fluid and absurdly casual, as if catching a football in slow motion. The head of the spear stopped inches from his chest. Silence. Azcali's expression didn't change, but something in her posture did. Her fingers twitched at her side, then curled into a fist. The crowd murmured louder now. Someone gasped. Someone else shouted. The eldest of the elders, face painted with ochre and age, stepped into the circle with the gravity of a collapsing star. "It is done," he intoned. Azcali stepped forward, fury behind her eyes. "He doesn't know what he's done. He accepted the spear," the elder said. "He doesn't even understand the rite." The man looked between them, clearly catching none of the subtext, but getting the vibe nonetheless. "Okay," he said, lowering the weapon slowly. "Just gonna throw it out there. I feel like I accidentally signed a lease or married someone." The elder nodded at him. "You have taken the weapon. The bond is sealed. You are hers. She is yours. Pardon." Azcali's face turned to granite. "According to the old law," the elder continued, "no force may sever what was accepted freely in the sacred ring." "I caught a spear," he said, baffled. "It was either that or take it in the chest." "Then you accepted the terms with full heart." "I accepted not dying." "Which is what most husbands do," muttered a younger warrior in the crowd. The elder turned to Azcali. "He is yours by claim. You will house him, train him, share battle and burden until death." She looked at the man again, dusty, sunburned, irreverent. A walking offense to centuries of tradition. "I don't want him," she snapped. "Then cast him aside. But not before the proper rites. And if he survives the trials, you must keep him." She turned on her heel and stormed off, not sparing him a second glance. The man blinked, looked down at the spear, still humming in his hands. "Well," he said, "that escalated quickly." His name was Sam. At least, that's what he told them once he stopped being poked with spears and started being processed for bonding. The translation system in the Drukhari stronghold was functional, if not entirely accurate. They called him Siam of the Skyfire. He didn't correct them. Now he sat in a sandstone structure somewhere between barracks and fortress. The walls were etched with murals of warriors and gods, all looking very judgmental. His room was a stone alcove with furs, a basin of water, and a strange, humming cube that probably functioned as a bidet/bomb. He wasn't sure, as Callie hadn't spoken to him once since the ceremony. Until now. She entered like a blade slipping into a sheath, swift, sure, and far too sharp for comfort. "You will rise at dawn," she said, arms crossed, hair still braided, expression thunderous. "Hi to you too," he said, seated cross-legged on the fur. "You will train. You will pass the trials. Or you will die. Thanks for the pep talk. You shame me. You shame my clan. You shame the very concept of spears." Sam scratched his chin. "I don't think I asked to be anyone's husband." "You are not my husband," she growled. "Then what am I?" She paused. Not because she didn't know. Because she did. "You are my burden." Sam tilted his head. "Wow. Romance is alive and well in the galaxy." She turned to leave. "Wait," he said. "Why you care so much about this bond thing? Isn't it just ceremonial?" She didn't look back. "Because I was born a blade. And now they say I am tethered to a fool." Sam's limbs ached in places he hadn't known existed before arriving on this sun-blasted, spear-happy planet. Muscle memory was beginning to form, and bruises had evolved into badges of reluctant honor. He was still no match for a Drukhari warrior in terms of sheer power, but he was becoming something else entirely. Unexpected. The rite of the sixth trial was tomorrow. He was told cheerfully by a half-drunk soldier named Kor that most humans didn't survive the fifth. Sam had survived. Barely. And mostly by inventing what the Drukhari now called the tumbleweasel maneuver, which was a series of erratic rolls, followed by a lucky headbutt. As Callie still refused to laugh at the name. Or at him. Tonight, she stood in the courtyard, her silhouette etched against the moonlit cliffs. She was sharpening her own spear, not because it needed it, but because her hands needed something to do. Something other than form fists every time she thought about the trials. He approached her slowly, holding 2 steaming mugs. The drink inside was vaguely spiced and probably toxic by Earth standards. He offered one. She didn't take it. "You should be meditating." "I tried. Got distracted by the possibility of dying tomorrow." "You should not joke about the trials." "Is there anything I should joke about?" She finally took the cup, held it, sipped once. "Didn't peg you for sentimental," Sam said. "I'm not. You're here at midnight, looking tense, drinking possibly poisonous tea with the man you've been assigned to tolerate until one of us dies. That's practically romantic in some cultures." She sighed long and controlled. "You don't understand what's at stake. I get that it's a big deal. I get that your people are watching. I get that the bond means something here." "No," she said sharply. "You don't get it. If you die tomorrow, they will say I failed, that I chose a weak mate, that I dishonored the right." Sam blinked. "You think I'm weak? I think you're not one of us." He took that in, let the silence sit for a beat. "Well, you're not wrong," he said quietly. They stood like that for a while, 2 warriors from different worlds, joined by accident and bound by rules older than either of them cared for. When he spoke again, his voice had shifted. "Tell me about the sixth trial." She hesitated, then said, "You will enter the pits. Face the VE-car beast. Kill it or escape it. That is the trial. Define escape. Without being dismembered. Helpful. And if you survive, there is one more step. Let me guess. Another beast." "No." She turned to face him fully now. "You must choose. To claim me or to sever the bond." Sam opened his mouth, closed it again. "That's kind of a dramatic ending." "It is law. And if I choose to sever?" She didn't flinch. "You leave the clan. Leave the territory. Leave me." Forever. And if I don't, her gaze lingered on his. Then you stay, as one of us. He looked away then, suddenly fascinated by the swirling steam of his drink. I didn't come here to get married. I didn't throw that spear to be claimed by a human. And yet, she echoed. The VE car pit reeked of heat, blood, and old bones. Sam stood at the edge, looking down into the dark like a man contemplating whether to swim in lava. The arena was circular, walled by jagged stone. High above, Drakari gathered in rows, chanting, drumming, waiting for spectacle. The elder's voice boomed from a stone dais. Let the rite of the sixth trial begin. As Callie stood just behind him, flanked by warriors. She didn't speak, didn't move, but her eyes locked onto Sam's with all the intensity of a sniper scope. Sam adjusted the armor they'd given him, lighter than usual, flexible, but offering about as much protection as wet cardboard against the VE car, if the sketches were to be believed. He'd asked what it looked like. The answer had been a nightmare. He leapt into the pit. The impact shook through his boots. Sand hissed beneath him. He turned in a slow circle, spear ready. The gate opened. It didn't roar. It slid out, silent and fluid, all sinew and armored hide. Its face was a mass of segmented plates, fangs protruding like tusks. 6 limbs. A tail like a whip covered in hooks. No eyes. Sam muttered to himself. Yeah, no eyes. That's fair. The V car lunged. Sam rolled, barely avoiding a crushing blow. He jabbed with the spear, but found only air. The creature was fast, too fast for its size. It circled him with eerie silence, moving more like a predator in water than one on land. It struck again. He jumped. The tail missed him by inches and embedded in the rock with a sound like thunder. He panted. His mind raced. It couldn't see, but it heard. It felt vibrations. Sam stopped moving. He stayed utterly still. The beast paused, head swaying. Sam bent, slowly, and lifted a rock. Tossed it to his left. The VE car whipped toward the sound and lunged. Sam sprinted the other direction. He kept it up, moving, baiting, misleading. It was a deadly game of misdirection. But it was working. He stabbed once, twice, into soft joints. Blood sprayed black and acrid. The beast screamed. Then the tail caught him. He flew across the pit, smashed against the wall, crumpled. Pain lanced through his side. Something cracked. He coughed and tasted iron. Above, as Callie flinched. Sam stood, barely, wobbling. The beast came. He gripped his spear. Not tight. Loose. Deceptive. When the VE car struck, he moved in close instead of away. Slid beneath its lunge, drove the spear upward into its gut. The weapon snapped in two, but the point buried deep. The beast convulsed. Flipped. Screeched once. Then fell still. Silence. Then roars. Cheers. Chants. Sam didn't hear them. He sank to one knee, breathed, and looked up at her. He woke to the sound of chanting. He was in the ceremonial chamber, stripped of armor, dressed in something that smelled like incense and pride. As Callie stood before him, wearing the formal garments of her rank. She looked carved from legend. The elder stood between them. The trial is complete, he said. Now comes the choice. A hush fell. Sam looked at her. She looked at him. He remembered the first time he saw her. A blade with eyes. He remembered the days of training, the insults, the challenges. He remembered the tea, and the night she gave him a real spear. He began. But she spoke first. I am not yours, she said. Not by will, not by heart. You were forced upon me by tradition. He nodded slowly. I know. And yet, I would not see you go. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I would see what we might become, she continued. If not warriors bound by law, then something else. Sam stepped forward, took her hand. Let's find out, he said. The crowd erupted. And above them, somewhere in the stars, a planet watched 2 warriors walk out of tradition and into something entirely their own. 3 weeks after the 6th trial, Sam still wasn't sure if he'd joined a clan or accidentally become the crown prince of awkward silence. Drakari didn't do small talk. They did sparring, solemn nods, and long silences that carried emotional weight somewhere between "I respect you" and "I will murder you if you screw this up." Sam had developed a highly nuanced skill for interpreting those silences, mostly by guessing. As Callie, for her part, hadn't reverted to her former disdain, but she also hadn't exactly invited him into her private chambers to braid his hair and share feelings. What she had done was keep him close, involve him in training, and, most telling of all, publicly corrected a chieftain who questioned his place beside her. To a Drakari, that was the equivalent of writing "mine" in 12-foot-high blood letters on the city wall. He appreciated it. Sort of. Today, she handed him a dagger the size of his forearm and said, "We're going to the northern range." He blinked. For sightseeing? For vengeance. That shut him up. They rode out by dusk, armored and armed. 2 steeds, massive, tusked, 6-legged beasts that Sam had privately named Whiplash, and Please Don't Kill Me. The terrain was jagged and cruel, a twisted mix of black stone, snow, and wind that howled like the spirits of wronged ancestors. "This is where my sister died," as Callie said, without preamble. Sam's knuckles whitened around the reins. The one who... Yes, she was taken by the Skarn. He'd heard the name before. Border raiders. Alien mercs. Something between pirates and cultists. Not officially at war with the Drakari, but not exactly on their Christmas card list either. We received word of a nest. 2 days north. Hidden in the canyon's throat. They've grown bold. Sam adjusted the strap on his chest plate. And we're going alone because the council is slow, the warriors are split on whether it's worth retaliation, and because you and I are not interested in waiting for permission. He looked at her. So it's a date. She smirked, just barely. Try not to die this time. The canyon was a wound in the earth, wide and deep, its throat lined with jagged spires and forgotten bones. They left the mounts behind at the ridge and went in on foot, silent, shadowed, deadly. As Callie moved like wind over water, every step purposeful. Sam followed, quieter than he used to be, the human clumsiness dulled by weeks of practice and necessity. They reached the cavern just before dawn. Smoke rose faintly from within. Voices, guttural and cruel, echoed in the dark. He leaned close to her. "What's the plan?" "We kill them." "Right. Simple. No prisoners. Less simple." But he followed her in any way. The fight was not clean. It was not glorious. It was vicious, fast and loud. The Skarn were wiry, 4-armed brutes with too many teeth and no sense of honor. They fought like cornered beasts. Sam took a blade to the thigh, but down 2 with shots to the skull, as Callie carved through them like myth incarnate. By the end, they stood in silence over the broken bodies of 12 Skarn. A small satchel lay among the debris. As Callie knelt, opened it. Inside bones. Small ones. She closed it, stood, and said nothing. Sam didn't ask. He didn't need to. They burned the cave behind them. The ride back was quiet until twilight. "I couldn't save her," she said. "You were a child." They said I froze. That a true warrior would have died before leaving her. Then they're idiots. She didn't respond, but her fingers flexed on the reins. "People survive," he said. "Sometimes that's the hardest thing to forgive ourselves for." She looked at him sideways. "You're wiser than you look." "Thanks. I think." Another silence. Then, "You fight like a lunatic." "I get that a lot." "And yet you live." "I get that less." Her laugh was brief, unguarded. He stored it like treasure. Back at the stronghold, change was already stirring. Word of their raid spread fast. Skarn bodies had been found, skinned, marked with the Drakari sigil. A message. The council summoned them. "You acted without sanction," the High Seer growled. "You hesitated without cause," as Callie replied. Sam stood behind her, not speaking. That was the rule, bonded, but not interfering, unless directly addressed. "You risked war," the seer said. "You risked cowardice," she countered. The chamber bristled. Sam caught 3 warriors muttering. A 4th looked ready to draw a blade. Then a 5th spoke. "She upheld our honor." Another nodded. They avenged the fallen. The seers sat back, scowled. So be it. But if the Skarn retaliate, they won't, Sam said. The room turned. They lost 12-2. They'll count their losses and think twice. And you would know, the seer sneered. I know bullies. I was raised around them. They bark loud until someone punches them hard enough. You are not one of us, human. No, but I bleed for one of you. And I bled beside her. The silence was absolute. Then the youngest warrior stepped forward and offered Sam a dagger. Drakari custom. Recognition. As Callie didn't smile. But her hand brushed his as they left, just enough to feel. That night, under a sky lit by twin moons, Sam stood with her at the cliff's edge. I didn't expect this when I came here, he said. You expected death. I expected a mission. Orders. Not spears and rights and terrifying women. You still think I'm terrifying? Terrifyingly awesome. She turned to him. You are not Drakari. Nope. But you are mine. He looked at her, really looked. I think I always was. They kissed. The kind of kiss that rewrote borders. That sealed pacts older than stars. That said, without words, this is not the end. And far beyond them, in the cold dark of space, war drums stirred. Because power, when it rises in strange hands, never goes unnoticed. But that was for tomorrow. Tonight, they stood together. Warrior and human. Mate and ally. And, in each other, found the kind of strength no trial could name.